This podcast represents the opinions of the hosts of the Laugh Cry Club and guests on the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we share is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Welcome back to the club. This is the Laugh Cry Club. It's another episode. Thank you so much for listening. We're so glad you're here. I am Joy Parrish.
I'm Rebecca Zalany.
And I'm Chelsea Walsh.
And welcome back to the Laugh Cry Club. Hi, everybody. How you doing?
Hey, everyone.
We're so happy that you all are here. Happy Monday, fun day. I hope you're enjoying your morning listening to us.
Monday, fun day. Whenever you're listening, maybe you're on a walk, maybe you're running errands. You just have 3 licensed therapists in your ears. Does it get any better than that? So thank you for supporting us. Remember, you can leave us a review on any of the podcast platforms that you're listening. Just a friendly reminder, 5 stars. 5 stars goes a long way. I don't know if everyone out there is familiar with how podcasts work with charts, but if you subscribe and you like and share and all of those things, that goes really far as how podcast platforms will then bump us up to show us to other people when they go on the app. So that really does go a long way. We really appreciate it if you could just take a second to do that. You can email us at laughcryclub@gmail.com if you have questions or want to just start a discussion. Anything you want to ask a licensed therapist, anything you want to ask about therapy, we are here for you. Okay, so as we do with the start of every episode, we're going to talk about our laughs of the week and our cries of the week. Today, we're going to be talking about triggers and what are triggers. We hear that a lot in the zeitgeist of mental health. We're going to go into what that means as it relates to mental health and talk about personal experiences with triggers, how it shows up, how we handle it. And then we will wrap up for this episode. Chelsea, do you want to nominate someone for their laugh cry of the week?
Yes, absolutely. My recommendation for our first nominee is going to go to Rebecca.
Yay! I'm so excited to be selected first. Thank you, Chelsea, for that nomination. Okay, so my laugh has to do with me and my wife. We're headed to Trader Joe's. We're in our car. And I started talking about perimenopause for some reason, but I got tongue-tied and I said, Mary, pause. And that we just started cracking up because we're like, oh, that's Mary Poppins or post Mary Poppins. And then we came up with this song. So a spoonful of estrogen makes the day go well in the most delightful way. And so everybody...
I'm crying.
So, I mean, any of you out there that have, experiencing any of these side effects with peri, post, all the Mary Poppins pauses. Yeah. We all know how important a spoonful of estrogen is. So that was my laugh. It was really hilarious.
That's really cute. If you missed the first episode, we are all in our mid 40s. And so we are of age starting to experience those symptoms and they're not pleasant. And I think, when I was in my 30s, this was just a whisper of an idea. But now that we're here, it's like, oh man, this is real. It's real talk.
It is 100% real. And the sweating at night is a whole entire thing. So could you add progesterone to your song, Rebecca? Because that's the other magic with the estrogen that has really helped my sweating. Not making any medical recommendations, but I think we can add some other helpful hints into the song and then market it. And Rebecca, your singing voice sounded really amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm so glad I already have fans of my... maybe I can release an album or something too.
TSA,
to the club.
Watch out, TSA.
Maybe like a club sing-along. Yes, for sure. For my cry moment, I actually have an anger moment. So it's like an anger frustration moment. I have been going to the gym this week, and there's this guy that has been coming, and I've seen him lots of times. He is reeking of onions. Today, I wanted to throat punch him because I was already feeling really stressed. And I'm like, this is my happy place. You know, I'm going to work some stress off here. But now I have to smell like day-old onions. It's disgusting.
Yeah, like how close is he in proximity when you're working out?
Oh, he's probably like 10 feet away. I mean, it's a smaller gym.
I mean, but still, that's 10 feet away is a good amount to smell that intense.
You could smell him throughout. So like he walks by and it's like this onion perfume aroma coming from him. And I'm like...
Perfumed onion?
Yeah, I'm like, this is just a new thing. So I'm like, I wonder if something's going on with this guy. Or I'm like, dude, don't eat a bunch of onions the night before you come work out. Because we all have to smell it. It's disgusting. But it's almost like he's been eating like the bloomin' onions from Outback like all day long. Or I'm like, is he on a French onion soup diet?
Yeah. Or do you know those people that eat onion? I don't know these people. I've heard of people who eat an onion like an apple.
What? Who are those people?
Wait, hold on. Where did you hear?
Probably that guy.
Where did you hear this, Joy? Is this a TikTok trend?
I mean, I've been in the CrossFit world for ages. I've known all the crazy diets people do, and like that is legit something someone would do to like hit a macro or something. People are nuts.
That's hardcore and
it's
absolutely
hardcore.
Disgusting. So PSA to any of our listeners out there, if you are going to a gym, maybe consider what you eat the night before. Like heavy garlic stuff. I know that personally. I will sweat garlic out, so I can't go have like super garlicky Italian stuff, or like cut back on the onions, please.
That would enrage me. Did you give him dirty looks? What did you do?
I may have. I can't see my own face. So probably, or I think I was just disgusted. I think I just like shook my head and looked at the ground and probably grumbling, like some old man grumbling around.
But maybe,
like,
maybe it made you more like, did the rage make you work out a little harder this week?
Actually, no, because my trainer is trying to kill me. So if Ashley is listening this week, the workout from Tuesday killed my legs, and they are absolutely... I could not walk yesterday, really. You know, the kind where you have to brace yourself to get up and down off the toilet.
Yeah, we call that the toilet trust fall. Yeah.
Okay. So So that's my, laugh, anger, frustration moment. I am going to throw it back over to Chelsea for a laugh, cry moment.
Okay. So my laugh, cry, I'm trying to think of a laugh. I'm thinking, okay, so I'll go with the cry. The cry was yesterday. Well, actually, I've had a few cries. Okay. So one of them is that my friend's husband, who's also my friend Brian, who actually died twice of this heart stuff and was brought back, is like great and amazing and released out of the hospital. Miraculous. Thank you for thoughts. Thank you for prayers. Thank you for all the things. Thank you to all the powers that be out there. He is back, which is amazing. So that was just like one of those laughing, like, oh my God, he's such a funny person that it's like, of course he made, like, you're relieved and you're happy and it's joyful and it's beautiful and it's amazing. So that was a big laugh, cry, but mostly I would say just really emotional and having lots of feelings about that. Something that was really fun when he was in the hospital is he is very popular in his community, and we call our friends there the Chicagos because they're in Chicago, and they had the entire hospital waiting room filled like 24 hours a day with supportive people who love their family. And it was like a full buffet. And I guess the egg roll guy came in and was like, put these in front of his face. This will wake him up. And so just like the love and support. And I wasn't there, but the stories just were so heartwarming and so happy and so amazing. So that was a laugh, cry. And then the other one is that my husband's mental health has really been struggling with this last kind of round we're in of cancer treatment. And yesterday he opened up to the oncologist, and he is going to be getting some help with his pain management and his mental health. And that made me like tear up and cry. And the support from his oncologist, she was just so understanding and compassionate and amazing. And I think that asking for help can feel really vulnerable and really hard. And so that was absolutely heartwarming. So my laughs and cries go together. They're heartwarming and endearing and miraculous and amazing. And so right now I'm feeling just completely full of gratitude. Joy, I'm passing it to you.
Thank you, Chelsea. That's really amazing. And I'm sending all the love to your friends. Thank you for sharing that last week, too, about your friend Brian, and listeners sending him love. That is just one of those moments where you think about how precious life is, where we can't like live in that moment all the time. And Chelsea, I know we can probably talk about this in another episode around being a caregiver and someone dealing with cancer, and how you can't stay in that moment of like, life is precious, we have to cherish every single moment, because that's just not realistic, but like how you do kind of dip in and out of that. And I'm just really glad that Steve is feeling better and getting help.
Yes, Steve, shout out to you if you're listening. If you are, thank you. And shout out to my girlfriend Erica, who's Brian's wife, who's just a complete badass rock star who like never left his side. Speaking of caregivers, I really want to highlight that, because we have the individuals who are going through the war of physical health, and then we have all the people on the sidelines. But when you are a spouse or a caregiver, you are in that war in a completely different way. And so I just want to give a shout out to anybody out there who's going through something hard. We see you. We know that you're there. It just makes the world better to know that there's people out there. So, okay, I'm done with my talks of gratitude and love, and I'm passing it back over to you, Joy.
Okay. My laugh and cry is they both took place at the Foo Fighters concert. So I went to the Foo Fighters concert with my husband on Saturday night. I love the Foo Fighters. And it was really hot. And it was just like one of those this August, my goodness, just so hot and sweaty. And so my husband and I were like, okay, we're just going to go. We're going to have a great time. We're going to rally because we love the Foo Fighters. We've seen them a handful of times. My husband's a huge music buff. So music is his life. This man goes to concerts almost at least twice a month. He is a concert crazy person. He has seen Pearl Jam. It will be his 50th time seeing Pearl Jam in September. Like, that's how many times he loves Pearl Jam. So needless to say, my husband's a big music guy. Like Chelsea, he would die to sit and talk to Steve, like shop talk. He would just soak up every word as far as like what Steve knows about like behind the scenes. He would just die about that. Anyway, which, by the way, whenever Scott gets tickets, my husband gets tickets, he likes to sit near the sound booth because he's like, that's going to get you the best sound.
Oh my gosh.
They're doing the sound.
Yes. And Dave
That is
Grohl
so smart.
is an amazing human. My husband has worked for him for years. He is an actual amazing human. My kids call him Dave Boss because when they were little, it was just Steve's boss.
It's so cute. I love that so much, which is so lucky that you guys have that relationship with him, because he just truly does seem like an amazing person. And side note, if you haven't read his book, The Storyteller, highly recommend. So great. I'm a huge fan of the song he just wrote called The Teacher about his mother. I mean, just like, anyway. So there's also, side note, this is not a therapy fun fact, but a music fun fact. If you are interested in and you like music, Song Exploder is an awesome podcast. And Dave Grohl does an episode breaking down The Teacher, the song that he wrote about his mom. And it is so beautiful. I get like teary just thinking about it. Okay, I'm done with gushing over Dave Grohl. So we're at the concert and we have like really good seats, and the Pretenders open, and we're watching Chrissy Hynde, like, you know, just this iconic band. And I look over at my husband, and he has like full on tears in his eyes watching the Pretenders. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like getting emotional, because like the Pretenders are a big deal to us too. And just, I think, being at the venue. And so I look over and I'm like, I keep it to myself because I'm like, I don't know if he's embarrassed that he's like full on tears coming out of his face. So I just kind of keep glancing over. And I think if you guys remember episode 1, I was like, we were kind of joking about how he didn't cry at our wedding. And I was like, you don't have a soul, like, because he's not a big crier. So the fact that I'm seeing like tears streaming down his face, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a touching moment. And I finally decide to ask him and be like, are you okay? So I look over at him, I'm like, are you crying? And he goes, no, I just have sunscreen in my eyes.
Oh my gosh. So if he had worn sunscreen at your wedding, he may have cried.
Hey guys out there
because it was
who are listening, if you need to make yourself cry for giving birth, getting married, sunscreen, thank you, Joy's husband, for that helpful tip. of the day.
And actors and actresses out there who've got to like make themselves cry on screen. Just put sunscreen on your face. It does make you cry. But it was so funny because it's so hot out and he's bald. I mean, I think he had a hat on, but still he always puts sunscreen on his face because he can't like get his bald head burned every single day. So he like lathers on the sunscreen. He goes, no, I just have sunscreen on. And I was like, oh man, I was really trying to catch him in like a tearjerker moment, but that wasn't happening. And then my cry is on the same vein. Speaking of my love for Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl, is that at one point they played this song called, I think it's called Aurora. It was Taylor Hawkins' favorite song, and they played that in honor of him. And before, it just makes me cry thinking about it. Before they played the song, it was like the second to last song on the set list. Dave was kind of talking about Taylor and just said, you know, we've been playing this tour for a while now. And every once in a while before we play this song, you know, I look up in the sky because it's an outdoor venue. It's a stadium. I look up in the sky and I sometimes will see something fly by. He goes, and tonight I looked up and I saw something fly by, and he kind of got choked up, kind of like I am right now. And he said, and I just take a second and I think, oh my God, he's here. So then they played the song and it was really beautiful. And I just can't imagine losing one of your best friends like that and then like having to move forward. And they have an amazing drummer who has been with the band forever and ever. But that was just a really special moment that, again, just kind of like makes you think about life being precious. So,
That is so true. I have cold chills right now. Thank you for sharing that. He was an amazing drummer. Fun fact, music fact, I actually saw, the first time I ever saw Taylor Hawkins was when I saw Alanis Morissette on her Jagged Little Pill tour.
Yes, that's right. He played with Alanis.
He did. And it was a very small venue. Tickets were $7 to see her. Yeah. And I was front stage. I think maybe there was 500 people total. That was maybe even less in the venue. So it was really nice watching the energy they had together.
Amazing.
Yeah. He was kind of one of those like one of a kind. And I obviously didn't know the guy, but anytime I'd go to the concert, I just loved his energy. He was always smiling. It looked like he was always having the best time. I remember one of the shows we went to, he swapped with Dave, and so Dave played the drums because Dave seems to play like every instrument known to man. So he just like swapped, and Dave was playing the drums, and Taylor got up and sang, and I was just like, they just seemed like two of the same person, and they were just really lovely, and he just seemed like a light. So that was just a beautiful moment.
Joy, I have one more question for you. Mm-hmm. Did the Foo Fighters get the best of you?
1000%. And the next day I actually used the phrase, the Foo Fighters melted my face off.
I love it.
They actually melted my face off. Dave is, this is not the Foo Fighters fan podcast, but like I could go on forever about Dave Grohl. I just love that man so much. Yeah.
Dave, if you're listening, we would love to have you as a guest. And we know Chelsea knows him as the boss.
Right. If we could have Steve send this episode, because we just talk about Dave Grohl the whole time. Dave, will you come on the show? Let's talk about your book. Let's talk about The Teacher. Let's talk about your mother, The Teacher. I'm sure he would talk all about mental health. So we're just going to put it out there that Dave Grohl is our first guest.
Dave Grohl,
you heard it here first.
Yes, I nominate you to be the first guest on the Laugh Cry Club. If you are listening, we would gladly have you on the show, and we will refer to you as Dave Boss, like my young children used to.
Yes, exactly. You've heard it here first. You were officially the first nominee. Okay. Wonderful laugh cry moments. Who wants to kick us off talking about triggers? What the heck are triggers? We hear trigger warnings before shows, before podcasts. We hear people say, I'm triggered. What does that mean? Who wants to kick us off with the trigger topic?
I will happily kick us off as somebody who can get triggered. So triggers are sensory reminders of painful memories and moments. And we know that painful reminders are stored in the body. And so it will feel like all of a sudden you are hijacked. Your brain is hijacked, your body's hijacked, and it can come from, really it's so personal to individuals, but we know the five senses, the triggers can be embedded with the five senses. We also know that our upbringing and how our relationships are with our caregivers, we can have some triggers into that. And so people will say like, all of a sudden they're doing something or reacting in a way that's out of character. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a wound. So I believe that triggers are shortcuts to open wounds. And if you have an open wound, that means that something painful happened and it's unresolved and it needs some attention. So that would be my long definition. And I'll pass it back to the group. Rebecca, what do you think?
Yeah, I appreciate you referring to it as an open wound because it is. And I feel like I want to talk about it in a little bit different way that I personally feel like the trigger warnings, the word trigger or I'm triggered is totally overused. And, you'll see it on like TikTok, Instagram, all social media videos. They'll be like trigger warning or people say, I'm so triggered by blah, blah, blah. And personally, sometimes I roll my eyes a bit about it in my personal life because I'm like, oh, here's another trigger warning that it's a trigger warning, or I guess using the word triggered is not like, I guess, describing having a human emotion because we all have human emotions and they are normal. I really like what you said, Chelsea. It's about kind of opening up that wound because that is different than just having a normal human reaction to something. So and I guess, I appreciate it when they put warnings on, say, movies or documentaries, something visual where there might be suicide in it or violence, sexual assault or something. I do appreciate that, but I think anybody that's really a human is going to have a reaction to something that's super violent. If there is a sexual assault in a movie, we're going to, or suicide, we are going to have an emotion if we are really being human. So sometimes I think they're overused, but in the context that you're talking about, Chelsea, if we're just talking about triggers and what they mean, say, in a therapeutic place, I agree that it is about opening something.
It's something that it's good for people to understand it too. So many times in therapy, patients will come to us and say, I'm having this reaction. I don't know why. And then when you can really tie it to the reason, I always use the example of like, sometimes when we come to therapy or even just in your life, if you're feeling really icky or something's going on with you and you don't know what it is, it feels so good to get it outside of you, meaning like you talk about it. And I'm using the visual of like opening my hand and putting something in the palm of my hand to look at it and be like, okay, now I can look at it and know what it is and kind of name it instead of just thinking that I am quote unquote going crazy and I don't know what's happening with my body. So that's really important to label it in that way. I'm glad, Rebecca, you brought that up too, of just kind of how people can flippantly use mental health terms, very similar to people saying, oh, I'm so OCD. Do people really understand what that means? And it has nothing to do with being just clean. Could be further from the truth. So like that part of the trigger is really important for people to understand. It does open up, it unlocks a memory. And I think we're all trained here in EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, or not Chelsea, sorry, but Chelsea, you know what it is. Chelsea just put in the chat, not me, but she does specialize in trauma. She gets all of this, but EMDR is just a type of therapy to treat trauma. But it's very similar to kind of unlocking a memory and then being like, okay, I really need to process the feelings that go with it. Now, when you have a memory, when you have a trauma, when you have something like post-traumatic stress disorder, the memory can seem like it just happened 2 seconds ago. So I'll use one example here that I think everyone can remember if you were born before maybe 1990. Well, actually, if you were, I'm going to use 9/11 because I'm trying to think of like how old you would have to be. But 9/11 was a memory that everyone can think about where they were depending on your age. But millennials and beyond can think about, wow, I know exactly where I was when I heard that. It was my first day of grad school. You could recite exactly where you were like it happened yesterday. That is not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. That is one example of a trigger. Oh my gosh, I just unlocked a memory like it happened yesterday. And you have all these emotions tied to it.
Totally. I mean, that is one. Another big one for my generation is also the Challenger disaster, because many kids were watching it live on TV. TV at school.
Yep.
In science class.
Yep.
So, and actually just now verbalizing it, I have cold chills on my legs. And so it's stimulating a physical reaction to that event that I witnessed.
Rebecca, thank you for sharing that, what's happening physically. So I do want to go back and just really clarify when we're throwing around these terms, triggers or PTSD or OCD or whatever those are, when it's actually, I would say, very relevant to the field of psychology or diagnoses, it's on the extreme. So we all have things that irritate us, that annoy us, that might like be a hot button. Like Joy, you have the like if it's not fair, right? If somebody's cutting in line or something like that, that can be a hot button. A trigger literally is your body starts to physically respond. So I want to highlight what Rebecca said. She's getting chills on her body. Joy, when you were talking about 9/11, I was having restless leg, which I didn't even know I was doing until Rebecca was checked in with her body and I checked in with my body. So the triggers are really, I mean, it is like a hijack that you are back. If you have a trigger with abandonment, you are back in that moment being a little kid when your parent left you. If you have a trigger of, somebody being controlling, you are back feeling like that little girl, like you're in trouble. It's not going to be okay. You can't escape. You're stuck. And so really it goes back deeper and the body is like completely hijacked. So I did want to highlight that. I hope that makes sense.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, I would add on to that and kind of another experience besides just say a big event happening that recently I've been feeling very triggered by someone, or I guess I would say I was feeling some emotions. I didn't use the word triggered. And then I just went internally and started processing it. Like, why is this on my mind so much? Why am I waking up at night at 3 a.m. I'm so restless. I can't get a good night's sleep. I went and I started thinking about this and I'm like, oh, this reminds me so much of a family member of mine and is bringing up things that I have done a lot of work on in therapy, but it's been bringing things back up. So I would also say I don't feel like for me personally, that's just like an open gaping wound. It is something that I feel like I've healed from. And I think even if you've healed from it, your body remembers. There's the book by Vander Kolk, right? The Body Keeps Score, that whatever emotions you're feeling or you're going through in life, your body is going to have sensations and it's going to have memories of what's happened. So sometimes our body's feeling it before our memories are telling us this is what's going on. And that's what's been happening to me. But I wasn't really paying much attention until I forced myself to say, enough is enough. This is really making me ill.
The beauty of the triggers and doing the work is once you can recognize it, you get to have a choice of how to respond rather than react. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing. I once spent, I do weird things, experiments on myself. So I once spent a year, anytime I felt triggered, just telling the person thank you, and then immediately trying to get to a safe place to write about what that was bringing up for me, because I knew it was during a really hard time in my life. I was very activated. I noticed that I was very disconnected from myself. And so really it was like, thank you. Now I can do the work. Thank you. Now I could do the work. Because that is part of having triggers is it is your job to manage them. It's your job to investigate. It's your job to figure it out because the world is not going to conform or change the way that it is because of our hurts that we've gone through. And so really being that, I call it the good parent. Yeah, thank you. Show up. The good parent comes in and reparents. That's a huge, huge, huge part of it.
You're right. And I love that you talked about saying thank you again, because all I can think about now is you. And I think that was in episode 2 where you were like,
yeah, 2.
You were, I think, deranged Barbie, you referred to yourself as, and you were saying, just say thank you. Just say thank you.
All you should be saying to me is
thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. That's so hard, though. Okay, so when you were talking, Chelsea, all I could think of was like a trigger for me is I have a previous job that laid me off, and I mentioned it last week. I'll probably mention it more. It's a big trigger for me because it was so traumatic and I was so devastated, and I am so angry still at these 3 women who were involved directly. So I want to ask you a question, both of you. what you think about this. And I'm not saying like, do therapy on me or anything, but just more of like an opinion. Because what I came to at one point was that anytime I think about them, I use it as fuel because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this anger as protection. And maybe I'm fooling myself, but instead of forgiving them and moving on and all that BS sometimes I'll say this to clients where I'm like, you don't have to forgive and forget. Like, I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's realistic. I don't believe in the rhetoric that's like, well, forgiveness is for you, not for them. And I'm like, F that. I don't need to forgive any of you all. And I can keep this anger for myself because that protects me from ever getting hurt again. Thank goodness. I mean, they all live locally. I still like wonder the day that I'll have to like run into them because I have this like, I still have dreams of what I would do if I saw them. Like, that's how traumatic it was for me. So
it's going to be a fight club when you see them at the grocery store. And you're going to be in Trader Joe's aisle looking at nuts. And it's going to go down.
And I'm just going to throw the bag of nuts at them. But like, that is how angry I get. I mean, not to quote Taylor Swift, but like, she has a lot of songs too, but like the people that hurt you and like how that fuels you. That's kind of how I look at it. And I'm like, you're never going to get an apology or not apology, but you're never going to get forgiveness. I don't think they care. But I'm like, you're never going to get forgiveness from me. Move on with your... what it does for me is like, it wants me, and I don't know if this is healthy or not, but it makes me motivate to do almost like a competition where I'm like, I'm going to show you, which is a whole story of I'm going to show you is a huge like common thread in my life of people who have done me wrong. My go-to is like, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to be bigger and badder and I'm going to be like on the stage one day and be like, oh, see what you did to me? Like that type of mentality. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but that's how I deal with it.
Okay. So Joy, I would say the first thing is you were really hurt. Like anger is a secondary emotion. It's protective and it's valid, but it often comes second to being betrayed, having your feelings hurt, having the rug pulled out, feeling shame, whatever that is, that normally comes first, but we jump to anger because it gives us sense, it controls the room. It controls everything. It's powerful. You don't feel like the victim. It can be empowering in that moment. So I would say the trigger is about being hurt and betrayed. And then what I would say about forgiveness is, people can ask if they want forgiveness and we can choose whether we want to forgive them or not. That's a choice. But to just say, I'm going to forgive you and then that's for myself and I'm going to be done and call it a day. There's actually a lot of work around the wounds that comes back to us. And that would be the direction. If I was your therapist, that's the direction I would go in. It's like, what did this do to you and how can you come back and land back into you and heal the parts that this person opened up?
Because I think there's a level of, I don't feel like the anger is harming me in any way. I don't walk around in my life angry. But when that stuff comes up, I'm like, those mother effers,
Because anger is valid. We want to pretend like it's not valid, but it is a valid emotion. It's just there's other stuff with it too.
Joy, I would say that I am right there with you. I'm like, tag me in, sister. I'm ready. Let's do this. It's going down here in the nut aisle at Trader Joe's. I guess it's a trail mix. I don't know why I'm calling it the nut aisle, but anyway, they should change their signs.
Trail mix.
But I would be there with you. I feel like as I've gotten older, I am more like the fuck around and find out. I've never actually been in a physical fight with anyone, nor I'm not saying I want to be, but I've also just really started working out more as I've gotten older and I feel really strong and capable. And so I kind of almost feel like maybe from lifting weights, such heavy weights, sometimes I get angrier quicker. I don't know if it's like there's a testosterone boost happening or something going on with hormones. But yeah, I have the ability to forgive people too. I have, but there are certain times where I will channel anger because I feel like it makes me be better. It actually speeds up the process or it pushes me into action. So it gets the amygdala really going. I get probably the fight or flight is happening. And then I immediately am like, this is bullshit. You need to take action. And I do something and then I do it then. I don't wait anymore. So it really helps me.
Rebecca, will you share about the amygdala?
Well, yeah, I will try to do my best. I'm not a complete brain scientist here, but, it's a portion in your brain that handles kind of fight or flight. It's like the lizard portion of your brain in a way that we have all evolved throughout life. Our brains have evolved. And back in the day when we were out hunting and gathering as individuals, there were real threats. There may have been a tiger or some sort of mammoth out there, and we're hunting, trying to protect our family, feed our family. The bush rattles, and you immediately jump into action. It's either one, I'm going to run away from this huge threat, or I'm going to attack this. Or as we've developed, we now talk about freeze too, because some people freeze. And so then we make a decision and the chemicals go through our body and we start reacting. We're not even thinking about it most of the time. It's just, for instance, if you've ever been in a car accident or something, your amygdala probably kicked in immediately. Or if you saw something really tragic, you hear these stories about somebody jumping in and like getting a kid out of a street, or they didn't even think about it. They just reacted because their amygdala kicked in.
Yeah, it's like what you said, I think it was a couple episodes ago, around survival and how at the end of the day, our basic need is to survive. We have to remember we are animals in that sense, and that we do a lot of things for self-preservation. And that's really important when we're looking at our behaviors, to not judge it, to be like, oh, at the end of the day, this is what I'm kind of wired to do.
Yeah, we are just all trying to survive. We do it in different ways. And again, there's healthy and unhealthy ways. But at the end of the day, we just all want to live.
Chelsea, do you want to go next with sharing a story and how you handle triggers personally?
So a shameful confession. When I was younger, especially in my teenage years, I was a very angry young woman. Had lots of physical altercations, was very mouthy, could be very intimidating. I think that's probably why the anger part for me now is I really am intentional about where it's coming from. So I was the kid who in school, I wanted justice. I had a big fight one time. So this is really embarrassing, but I was 16 years old. I was in the lunch line. There was a kid who was calling the lunch kid who was serving us like a fat ass or something, and was berating him and being awful. And I punched that kid in the face. And then that kid started fighting me. And I had friends who were on the football team, and I was, had a lot of friends, and it ended up being an entire mob scene. This was my senior year. I had fake nails on because it was the 90s. All my nails were broken. I was fighting this kid. Everybody was getting involved. It was a full riot. Our vice principal came to break it up. He got thrown into the crowd. He got kicked in his head. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? It was horrible. And so I fled. So we talk about the amygdala, right? You fight, flight, you freeze. So I immediately fought, and then I fled, left school, and went and tried to clean myself up at my friend's house, and then tried to go back to school like nothing happened. And the attendance office lady was like, Chelsea, they've been calling your name on the loudspeaker for an hour. And I'm like, oh my God. She's like, okay, you need to go in the office. So I had to go in the office, and the vice principal had a Band-Aid over part of his face where he'd gotten kicked. There was all the kids in there. Needless to say, I got suspended. And it was my senior year. So they were like, if you get in any more trouble, you're not going to graduate. And so I was that kid who was very triggered, very protected. And anger was my way of really protecting this very vulnerable, sensitive kid that was in there. I mean, when I was a child, I was so painfully shy, I could barely get babysat. I was that shy anxious attachment little kid. And then my parents split up and I went into this anger. So the trigger of, somebody picking on another person, somebody picking on somebody who is more vulnerable. And there was times where I was just a complete asshole and was also a bully. So it took me a lot of therapy, and it was so shameful to talk about to my first therapist, my sweet therapist, about this. And he said, there's rebelling and there's like healthy rebellion, and then there's acting out pain. And you were very much acting out pain and very much trying to protect yourself. And I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm horrified of some of the behaviors I had when I was younger. And so I guess coming around full circle is, I look now, and now I've made it my responsibility to really do the work to manage those hurts and wounds so that I don't hurt somebody else, because that's my truth. My truth is that that's devastating to me. Like if I hurt one of your feelings, I would be absolutely devastated. But the triggers, they take over. It's like a hijack. So again, once you have the insight, that palm of your hand joy that you're talking about, where you can like take out the wound, look at it, examine it, know what's going on, then you have an opportunity to respond rather than react. Oh, shameful confessions of Chelsea.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of listeners can relate to this as far as having our own triggers, and that in the realm of how we explain it in EMDR too, is that you're not going to completely, as you heal these wounds, you're not going to ever completely forget. It's just the reaction is less charged, or the memory is less charged, and the reaction therefore is less intense. So you may have the memory, but as you kind of do work and healing through whatever therapy you decide to do, your reactions just become different. And you kind of notice like, oh, I'm not blowing up as quick as I used to, or, oh, that memory isn't making me as angry as it used to. And that's really what the goal is, because we don't want to set unrealistic expectations either of that, therapy is going to heal it all. It's just like, oh, okay, I have better, to our point where we talked about before, better coping skills, and that we can cope with these emotions a little bit better.
Yeah, I think a good example of how we end up coping better is if you looked at your first love that you ever had in your life, when that relationship ended, you were absolutely devastated, right? I'm seeing some faces here. Some people,
like I remember it. Like
you were crushed.
Like,
right.
My life was over.
Yeah, absolutely over. Yes.
You thought nobody else is ever going to love me or pick me. I'm going to be alone forever. It's going to be awful. And you thought life was over. But in some ways, you did some work throughout the time period. And I would imagine most of us are at a point now where it's like, yeah, this was that thing. This relationship was so-and-so. And we may even smile about it or look back at it like that was just kind of a silly situation too. Like we were kids, right? So that's just an example of where something you can have all the feelings and feel very triggered, but then as time and you heal and you do the work, it's still there. You have the memory, but the memory is maybe even different, and you don't have all the physical trigger or symptoms any longer.
Yes, Rebecca, you're right about that. When I think about the anger acting out for myself, that was a helplessness feeling. That was me feeling helpless. And then how do I take control? Or how do I express feelings that I have shoved down deep because I didn't ever feel like I had permission to have emotions? So there was so many emotions happening, and that's how it came out. And so, when we think about helpful tips and tricks, when you can identify what that triggers and say like, okay, right now I feel helpless, and that reminds me of when my parents split up. That's not happening right now. What's happening right now is a whole different situation. The feeling is still the same, but I'm not, 10 years old. I'm a grown up and I'm safe, and I can make a choice now of how I want to respond. So it gives you that internal pause button. So that would be like if you were in therapy, how I would connect it. Like, what's familiar about this? What's the feeling? Because again, going back to the book Rebecca shared, The Body Keeps Score, wonderful book, highly recommend it. Then you can look and say, okay, that's not happening to me right now. How can I take care of myself so that I can give myself some psychological safety to calm that amygdala, to calm that hyper-aroused system, to know that it's okay. It reminds me of what you said, Joy, last week. Like, isn't therapy just building up distress tolerance to emotions? This triggers, this is a big one.
Yeah. And I really want to reiterate the point around once you know what it is, you can, and this is with a lot of things in therapy, is once you identify what is going on, you can work with it better. It's similar. It's not unlike going to the doctor and getting a diagnosis and getting medication for it. It's like, okay, now that we know what it is, we can treat it appropriately, except you, patient, are the person that's like, okay, now I know the tools. I got to get the tools to then do the work and water the garden kind of kind of what we talked about, planting the seed. And this is where the work happens of doing the tools, putting the tools into place so that you can now say, okay, I've identified that then when this comes up, I can put these tools in place because I don't feel out of control with my body anymore. Which tends to happen is like you just kind of get in this swirl of emotions thinking like, this is just me, but you feel crazy sometimes. And then it's such a relief to go to therapy to kind of be validated that like, my God, what happened to you was not okay. That was just horrible what happened to you. Or, you shouldn't be having to, I was just talking to a patient about this the other day. Like, you absolutely should be pissed off, like validating, hearing someone else validate when sometimes I think we walk around just holding in these emotions, thinking we just got to figure it out on our own. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, I really want to encourage people, set up an appointment with a therapist. Get a session with a coach, somebody. Talk to somebody and just share what you're feeling, because even just that initial share of, I am just going to maybe walk into this office and drop this feels better. And then we can begin to work through this. Your therapist can work with you or your coach can work with you on how to improve things and have less reaction to these symptoms. Or the
and
thoughts.
I'm going to even add to, if you have a really good friend, like I have amazing sisters, amazing girlfriends. This is not a clinical term, but I invented it. It's called purposeful processing, where I will call them and say, I need to run this thing by you because I need objective feedback. And it's very intentional because we know when we hold it and store it, then we're just left to our own biased brain to just beat the crap out of us or continue to justify the behavior or do both, which is what my brain really likes to do, like beat you up, then shame you, and all of that gets really mucky. So if you have somebody, we have lots of wise people in our lives who I'm sure would love to support and be included to help you process. So if you aren't ready to see somebody as a professional, that could be an option as well. Just open up. Don't hold it all in.
That's a good point, especially around if you're just not ready to reach out and see a therapist. Maybe you don't have the resources right now to see a therapist, but even just opening up to people who you trust. I think that we'll wrap up here after this, but in my other podcast, my co-host and I talk about this a lot around like what you share on social media, and also how you process things. There's this weird kind of culture, especially if you have a bigger social media following, that you have to take a stand for everything out there. And that's just not really realistic. And so we always say like process things with people, especially with social media around an upcoming election like the one we have in the United States. You don't have to take a stand on social media. Like, it's kind of the same thing here of like when you have something really important issues, talk with really close people that you trust instead of like feeling like you have to kind of air it to everyone. And that's just something that's really important, especially in the age of digital media, social media, that we want to keep those emotions really protected, put a boundary, or at least just kind of be selective and treat that with care.
And that might be a good follow-up is the boundaries. Not today, but another day, because that is a great call out, Joy, because that also then is a double-edged sword, right? I put this all out there and now I can't take it back. And now we get into this spiral. Thank you for calling that out.
Yeah, sure. And there's so much great research and resources out there around boundaries we can share. And I think that's a great upcoming topic we can discuss. And as a reminder, if you want to send us feedback, questions, or topics that you want us to talk about, laughcryclub@gmail.com. I want to finish this episode with a comment from one of our amazing listeners. Thank you so much, everyone, for rating us 5 stars and leaving a comment that helps other people find the show. And that really is our goal, is to help as many people as possible through this show and normalizing the struggles we have with mental health. This comment comes from someone that's listening on the Apple podcast. It says, TSA in Seattle has a place to pour your water while you're in line, so you can keep your water bottle. P.S. Loving these podcasts so far. Keep it up. So, yay, Seattle.
Yay, Seattle. I'm already doing my work, everybody.
Rebecca, saying.
I've already been in Seattle and corrected this problem. I'm so glad people are noticing. Thank you. That's such a great comment.
My nomination.
It's a great comment. And thank you, Rebecca, for your work with the TSA.
And I'm just going to say thank you, Chelsea, for nominating such a great TSA nominee. I don't know what you're...
She's fulfilling her nominee as head of TSA.
Okay. Thank you, Joy.
Yes, I feel like I need like a sash and a crown. It feels almost like
You need
I
a title.
won Miss America or something,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
feel
the
like
head of TSA.
we need to put that in our Instagram bio. It's like, you know what the funny thing is I chose for us to follow TSA from our Laugh Cry Club podcast account. So we follow TSA, and I'm like, all the time I see, they actually have a really funny Instagram account. Fun fact. It is hilarious. So whoever's behind that, TSA, good job. As a reminder, we are nominating Dave Grohl to be our first guest on the podcast. Looking forward to all the fun topics and the laughing topics, the crying topics, all the fun and difficult things that go into being a human. Thank you for being in this club. Anything else you want to say, my fabulous friends?
Thanks for being in the club, and can't wait to talk to you all next week.
Oh, thank you for listening to my horrible shame story. If you are a person who witnessed that during the time, I sincerely apologize. I have actively been doing the work for many years now, and I'm trying to get better.
You know what? Barbie, it's okay. Aggro Barbie is here to stay, and we love her, and we welcome her with open arms.
I just had a corrective emotional experience. Thank you, Joy.
Okay. Thank you, everyone out there. Welcome to the club. Join the club. We love you. Subscribe. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.